London, 1660. A 6-year-old boy stands in the Palace of Whitehall, blind and covered in lesions. For 2 years, his family has spent fortunes on physicians, surgeons, apothecaries. They've bled him with leeches, applied poultices, administered toxic mercury. Nothing worked. The swellings on his neck keep growing, tuberculous lymph nodes the size of eggs, oozing pus. He cannot see. The doctors have given up, so his parents bring him here, to the newly restored King Charles II, clutching a signed certificate from their parish churchwarden, proving the boy suffers from Scrofula, the king's evil, and has not yet received the royal touch. They've travelled days for this moment. The boy is examined by 1 physician and 2 surgeons. Then he's led into the presence chamber. Charles II places his hands upon the child's swollen neck, traces the sign of the cross above his head, and speaks the prescribed words. The ceremony lasts minutes. Weeks later, according to the king's surgeon John Browne, the boy's sight returns. The lesions heal. A miracle. Or was it? For 800 years, English and French monarchs claimed divine power to cure this disease through touch alone. It was medicine, politics, and theatre rolled into one. A massive public spectacle that proved the king's legitimacy. If he couldn't cure, he wasn't God's chosen. Except the medicine was a brilliant placebo that worked because of one medical fact: Scrofula goes away on its own. The practice began around 1042 with Edward the Confessor in England, though the French insisted they started it first with Robert II or Philip I. Both kingdoms claimed God had granted this gift exclusively to their monarchs, divine proof of their right to rule. By the 13th century, during Louis IX's reign in France and continuing through Philip IV, the royal touch had become institutionalized, an elaborate ceremony proving the monarch's sacred status. In England, it continued unbroken through 8 centuries, from Edward the Confessor through Queen Anne, who died in 1714. The scale was staggering. Charles II touched approximately 90 to 100,000 people during his 25-year reign. That's 2% of England's entire population. In 1660 alone, the first year of his restoration, he touched 6,725 sufferers. French monarchs matched the spectacle. Louis XIV touched up to 3,000 people in a single day. The ceremony mixed religious trappings with pagan ritual. Before attending, sufferers obtained signed, dated, sealed documents from their parish church wardens certifying they had scrofula and hadn't been touched before. At Whitehall, they were examined by physicians and surgeons. Then came the ceremony itself. Passages from the Gospel of Mark were read. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. Prayers followed until the English Reformation, addressed to God, Virgin Mary, and saints. The monarch touched each person's neck, traced the sign of the cross. From Henry VII onward, each sufferer received a gold coin called a touch piece to wear as an amulet. Selling the coin supposedly nullified the cure. If you didn't heal, you'd broken the rules or lacked faith. The political purposes were transparent. Charles II had practiced the royal touch during his exile in the 1650s, one of his few means of asserting royal status while Cromwell ruled England. English merchants even acted as travel agents, assembling groups of patients and bringing them across the Channel to the exiled king. When Charles returned in 1660, touching for scrofula became a way of proving God favoured his restoration. During the interregnum, when Charles I was executed and monarchy abolished, believers developed creative strategies. They used handkerchiefs dipped in Charles I's blood from the scaffold, travelled to see Charles II in exile, or turned to others claiming healing powers. The practice demonstrated something crucial. This wasn't about medicine. It was about proving divine right. Christ had performed miracles. Parliament couldn't. Cromwell's protectorate couldn't. Only God's anointed king could heal with touch. Puritans viewed it with suspicion. Too Catholic, too magical. But it reinforced the quasi-sacred status of monarchy. Here's why it worked. Scrofula is tuberculous cervical lymphadenitis, infection of lymph nodes in the neck caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. The nodes swell into painless masses, sometimes growing to 8 or 10 centimeters. They may ulcerate, drain fluid, but Scrofula has one medically significant characteristic. Prolonged remission is recognized as a natural feature of tuberculosis. The disease is self-limiting. It often goes into spontaneous remission without any treatment whatsoever. Many patients recover on their own. The timeline was perfect for royal propaganda. The king touched you. Weeks or months later, your swelling reduced. The lesions healed. Clearly, the royal touch worked. If you didn't heal, your faith was weak. You'd sold your touch piece. You'd sinned. The failure was yours, never the king's. Medical records show cures where patients recovered. But we now know recovery rates with proper modern treatment approach 100% for tuberculosis-caused scrofula and over 90% for non-tuberculous mycobacterial causes. Without treatment, many still recovered naturally. The king got credit for what the disease's biology would accomplish anyway. When did it end? When nobody believed in divine right anymore. William III and George I refused to perform the ceremony. Physician Richard Blackmore praised them for abandoning that superstitious and insignificant ceremony. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 and subsequent rejection of divine right monarchy rendered the royal touch unnecessary. Queen Anne was the last English sovereign to use it. In 1712, she touched 200 people, including an infant named Samuel Johnson. His biographer Boswell later recorded the treatment failed. The ceremony disappeared from the Book of Common Prayer in 1732. In France, the practice ended with Louis XVI, though Charles X briefly revived it in 1825, touching about 120 people in one final performance before the tradition died. But belief persisted. As late as 1860, people in Sussex brought scrofulous sufferers to touch a shirt supposedly worn by Charles I on the scaffold, hoping for cures. The royal touch was never medicine. It was political theatre with perfect timing, a disease that healed itself, credited to divine monarchy. For 8 centuries, it reinforced social hierarchy and proved kings were chosen by God. Sometimes the best cure is just waiting for biology to do its work, and if a king can take credit for it, all the better for his throne.